So this is part 32. How I became an international smuggler, how I worked my way through the US prison system and the lessons that I learnt in that. So I had to take a break from filming just as we'd left off that my little brother had made a call and I'd asked him how mum was and he said okay, and we talked for a bit. And anyway, if you don't know, I want to move on from that one, but we had a conversation. So I was getting moved out of the processing center in Oklahoma and on air again, and off we go. I know for a fact we're flying north, so we're heading north and I could see the landscape change and I could see the greenery coming in. It's a really weird feeling because I've spent a lot of years up around Seattle and Vancouver, and just as you get closer, I don't know, just a sense of home came in, and so I could see the Cascade Mountains, Mount Baker coming in, and I knew that we were coming home. We were going to be in Seattle. It's got fond memories to me. It's the first place I ever sort of went in the United States, and that's where I was so close to Canada, to my friends. And we swooped around Seattle, banked around, and we didn't land at SeaTac. We landed at a little airfield. It's right near the city, but I believe it's called the Boeing Field, and it's where all the private jets land. It's where some of the military planes work out of, and it's right beside the city. It's crazy. We landed there. I remember just the door open and it smelt like the Northwest. That's the region of Canada, or Canada and the States, they call it the Northwest. It just smelt like home. I was there. So there was a few of us that got off the plane there. The plane literally they were dropping off, I believe about 12 of us. And we were all just standing there. It was a bloody cold day. We're now a little in our gear, but we're in our federal gear now, and we're just onto some vans. Security had dropped off a bit from California, so it had got less and less. I would say there would have been somewhere between 6 and 10 marshals. There was still a couple of cars. There was a chase car and a lead vehicle, and then we were in vans in the middle, and off we go. And it was weird when we drove out of that airport, because I was at that airport, I'd say 2 months earlier, maybe a little bit more, and I was test flying a Sikorsky S-76 twin engine. The weirdest thing, I was looking at a bigger helicopter, and the next time I'm at that airport, I'm in the black box and the handcuffs, the chains, everything. So it was just weird. And I had taken that drive so many times, so we drove up and we're heading down to the federal facility. It was right near the airport. It was almost on airport grounds. But we got on the I-5. I had driven that I-5 so many times. I'd spent so many years in Seattle. I had a house in Tacoma, in the first part of the story that me and my brother had fixed up. So you've been in Tacoma. It was the first place I landed when I was 19. I had and just to be sitting on that van in handcuffs, especially in Seattle, especially around that area, it was nice to be around that area, but it was incredibly sad. It was just, the fuck have I done? I just wanted them to open up the doors and your car's here, you can go home, but it wasn't going to be the case. It was tough. It was great to see familiar territory, but mentally torture, because you could see it, you could almost touch it, but you couldn't touch it. We would drive through there and head down to Tacoma. I believe it was sort of down that way. I don't exactly know where it was, but they called it SeaTac because when I got upstairs, you could see the airport and I could see the end of the runway. And that'll play later. But this is where we were. So we headed to the facility. This one was big. This one would have been, I'd say 12, maybe 14 stories high, the building. And we headed down into the basement, and there wasn't a lot of like US Marshal Service, because they do transportation. There wasn't a lot of Marshal Service, but there was. It was tight, meaning as the van came down, the doors came up, and they had these pylons that come out of the ground. We went in, the pylons come back up, the van is put back down, then we go through another door, and that door comes down. So, and there's padlocks on the outside of the van, and there's cages within the vans itself. So by no means are you getting broken out of this thing, although they treat you and act like you are, head of the Aryan Brotherhood and Mr. Bings. They treat everyone maybe the same. So there's no chance of breaking out of this thing or being broken out of, and it's quite clear in all the security. And then you're going to be processed in, and this is where I would spend the next majority of my sentence, because that's how the system works. So we head in, and people from the Northwest are different than people from California. They're a little more laid back. The processing was relatively simple. They didn't feel like they were on edge as much as the people in California, Oklahoma, Colorado, New Mexico. God only knows wherever else I was. So I was processed in and given all we were changed out of those clothes that we were given. Each time that you went into a facility, they got rid of those clothes. I figure for security reasons, you had to sit on that thing so they x-ray your body. We were given green jumpsuits because they didn't have enough clothes. And you were given your green jumpsuit and then all your bedding, and then you were heading up into your pod. I'll use the next experience in a lot of instances in my life. Stay tuned.